Hello and welcome to the United Devil with me, JB. I hope we're all doing really well today, which is the 8th of July. Have to say I'm pretty chilled today. Obviously, overnight, last couple of days, this week, fan base seems to be losing its head and going a bit crazy. I hope we're all well, though. I do hope that we're all doing well. I hope we're all not too frustrated. Obviously, there's more important things in life than the transfer window. Last week really showed that, and I just really hope that everyone's doing well today and not quite frustrated. So why am I chilled? Despite the fact that transfers are not happening, we can go over the thumbnail as well as to Vardy, Callum Wilson, and Calvert-Lewin. Why I'm completely chilled on that. Mbumo is going at a snail's pace, and despite all the despite all the rhetoric around that, I've got my own opinions on that, but I'm completely chilled. I should tell you for why I'm completely chilled. This channel and you amazing, intelligent people on here, and we've had many discussions, and your comments on here have been absolutely fantastic. I really love the people that come on here and you give your opinions and you give your chats, and we talk about lots of different scenarios, and I think we're quite open. Now, 3 weeks ago, one of my biggest concerns, which I voiced, and I think we spoke about this, was Jamie Vardy and Calvert-Lewin and the potential of those. And that was my biggest fear 3 weeks to a month ago now, which I did say on the channel, which we did speak about on here. And that was some of our biggest fears. Now, when no one else was mentioning this, no one else was even giving this a thought, and the Jokeres was still floating around there, the Osherman deal and whatever else. And this channel was staunch in its opinion. My opinion has always been, and my view on this was always, we were never going to get these players. And my fear was, and not because I want to be right, by the way, this is not about being right, because if I'm right on this, then I'm absolutely 100% wrong, and it's terrifying. But the fact that little old me on this channel, and the wonderful people that watch this channel, we sort of already called this already, and we were already fearful that these three players potentially would be lined up, and it has a Ineos and the Glazers written all over these transfers. So I think I've already come to terms with it. This was already in my thought process. This was already something that I've already had to deal with in my own brain. And according to the Athletic and some of the other YouTubers today, 3 weeks behind us, I might add, and now started to talk about the real possibility of a Vardy, a Calvert-Lewin. Those two are my biggest fears, and Wilson as well. So thank you for the like there. You're more than welcome to stick in the comments and get in the comments, and let's start some conversations off about this. So what I'd love to know, if you've been part of this channel now for a couple of weeks, just know that you're part of the fact that we said this on here. We said, before anybody else was really making any noise and kicking off about it, we mentioned the Jamie Vardy and our fear of Jamie Vardy and the Calvert-Lewin thing, only because we know that this is what we've done over the last couple of years, and obviously because of the transfer window and the rhetoric that's coming out of this club. So going to go to the thumbnail. I've already done a video on this, touched it briefly on the PSR, and what we do to trick this fan base, and not what we do, what the Glazers do, and now Ineos are facilitators of this, and how they fool us. I'm going to caveat this with, again, when you put in your opinions, people are frustrated, and sometimes they take their frustrations out on channels and on people, and I completely understand that. And I think as long as we're all respectful, even if your opinion is a frustrated opinion and you want to come and you want to vent, happily vent here. But as long as we are respectful of an opinion and there's no abuse, then feel free to come here and just tell me your frustrations. Tell me what you're frustrated about. Tell me what annoys you, whether you are in support of the Glazers and Ineos and you do think that they are doing stuff that maybe we can't see, or you're not and you want them to do something a bit more, and what you actually think of the window so far. And if you're a little bit more of a PSR expert than I, obviously feel free to come and let us know. So Kieran Maguire, who is a financial expert, and I do like to read all different bits and bobs. So as a finance professional, or I'm fully aware of, not completely, but I'm aware of kind of how finances work and business works. So what have I said about the 200 lie? So I need to caveat this obviously with the fact that whether or not United physically have the cash or the funds, because as we know, the Glazers and Ineos do not like to put money into the club. They never have. They take. I'm going to caveat this with, even though there is no money there, they could find ways to get money in, but they don't. So irrespective of paraphrasing all this and caveating this with, the Glazers could and Ineos could put in cash to give us the ability to find players. Now, what they don't, or what they do, is two things here. So what the majority of people do is they look at this 105 million loss. Okay, so we do have 105 million pound loss on the books, and people will go crazy and mad and say, oh, you know, there is no cash to spend. And the Glazers will use this and spin this so they don't have to spend any money. Now, this is where Kieran Maguire comes in and actually puts some context around this figure. So this is on the stock exchange. This is where we are floated on. However, what is not as maybe commonly seen or known is that they have another company called Red Football, and this is what they actually use for PSR. So what that means is that the Glazers and the Ineos have the ability to manipulate how they want the PSR to look. So in terms of the outwardly facing PSR, we are absolutely fine, and we could more than happily spend a couple of 100 million on players. But then when the Glazers then want to manipulate that and make it look like we can't, they just refer back to the other company floated on the stock exchange and refer to that as taking a 105 million loss. So what you've got is you've got these two hands here, which I think the Glazers and Ineos play extremely well, is that you have on the one hand, you have this, we can't spend any money because we will have 105 million pound loss on the stock exchange, which is not the same and not used for PSR. And then on the other hand, well, because we don't want to get points deducted and we don't want to be in trouble with PSR, we then use the red one as the face of, actually we're actually PSR compliant because we've used red one to do this. So what this means once again is that the Glazers and Ineos have this ability to manipulate that. So what does this basically mean? This basically mean that as a club we basically have no cash in the club, and this rhetoric around PSR is an absolute lie. So you're going to get other people talking, oh, we can't spend money because we need to be PSR compliant. We are PSR compliant. We are more than PSR compliant. We are PSR compliant by a couple of £100 million. We could spend, and we're not talking about like 200 million over 3-4 years. We're talking about 200 million pounds. We could physically spend that if we had the money. Now, whether we've got the money is a different conversation and a different context completely. But what is happening, especially this week and over the last couple of years, and I'm going to say this, and this is not a dig, but this is my personal opinion on this, is that there are channels and there are people out there who are sympathizing with the Glazers and the Ineos approach. And if that's you, then, well, that's 100% fine. I'm not calling you out. I'm not saying that you're wrong. And if that's your stance, then you have to absolutely keep that stance, and if you do sympathise with the Glazers and you're of the opinion that we've got no money, so we can't spend it on players, well, actually, there's a counter argument factually that says for PSR we are PSR compliant. So that PSR excuse, when factually you can pull up the United accounts and look at that and talk to these experts in PSR, and United are more than PSR compliant. So what this actually comes down to, if we're being honest, is nothing to do with PSR as to why we can't buy players. We're not trying to keep in with PSR. What we're doing is we're trying to get cash into the club because we don't want to look so bad that we physically do not have the cash to buy these players. So there is a lie, and this is spinning the fan base this week when it comes to the transfers. We're basically trying to penny pinch here and penny pinch there, and this is the reason why we're not signing players, is because we want to penny pinch. We don't want to sign players, and United, Glazers, and Ineos hide behind this PSR when actually the PSR in relation to us spending is actually non-existent and is not a concern. What the concern is that we physically do not have the cash. So how does this now translate into football, and what is it that we're trying to do? So as we've seen many reports out there this week, and a little bit of spin in some players. So Atalanta for Edison, from a report in Brazil that we're now looking at or talking to him. I think that's absolutely gone. I think it's absolutely dead. I do not think that transfer is going to happen. I think Edison was a pipe dream. I think if we'd have won the Europa League final, I think that would be a completely different conversation that we'd be having now. But I think reality is starting to bite, that these are kind of players. Whenever we linked now to these kind of good players at a good price, I really do believe that this is a complete spin just to try to take us away from actually what has happened. Now, there was a really good point that I listened to, and I think this actually is a really good point. If Ineos wasn't here and we'd finished 15th in the league and no transfers were happening, we've got one in, then this fan base, there would be protests. People would be rioting. People would not be buying shirts. People would put an embargo on things that they do. There'd be a Glazer out. But because Sir Jim is here and people are under this illusion, and if that's your opinion, then that's fine. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong. I'm just giving you my opinion, is that I believe that they have hoodwinked and given people this illusion that they're doing something. And Sir Jim gets almost a buy, and they've managed, for whatever, which I don't get, is that they've spun this fan base now so much that people don't know what to actually do. So if this was a Glazer summer right now with the position that we're in, and I truly do believe this is the worst window pretty much that we've ever had, the Glazers now would be trying to spend their way out. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I don't necessarily completely agree with that statement that you just chuck a load of money at it, because do you know what? That's worked out terribly in the past and has gotten us to where we are now. They've not hired competent people. So, for example, even if we hadn't have bought players, okay, the medical staff, as far as I can tell or have heard, are still here. So even if, let's just say, for example, we can't afford to buy players, we're going to get injuries next season, and we still got the same medical department. I thought we were going to go for best in class, giving these players 5 to 10% physical edge even. And we've not even done that. So the coaches that we've got are pretty much the same. Amarin, I know, has just brought a handful of them, and basically the coaches are pretty much still here as well. So not only have we not invested in this squad, we've bought one player, we've not invested in the infrastructure around these players and the medical stuff that we need to keep these players in tip-top conditioning as well is basically not there. And even I've trained for a really long time. So I run, I go to the gym. So I train, and I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. So when I see these players on Instagram doing certain things, even I cringe. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means, and I watch some of these players doing some of their drills or whatever they do, and even I know with the training I've done over 20 odd years that they're going to injure themselves already. So I from top to bottom, from transfers right now to the club, to the way that it's managed. Ineos, if this is there, and from what I've seen, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I have not seen a single indication of change. And I know there are others who are banging on that drum that they are going to make a change behind the scenes, and they're doing this. I've not seen a single shred. Now, I accept that this might take a couple of years. We don't have years. This is the whole point, is that we don't have years. While everybody else is progressing forwards, we either stagnate or go backwards, and everybody else is progressing. And what are we supposed to do as a club? Which is going to come on to a point which a lot of you have made before this, which I think is an interesting point. So, to transfers wise, so therefore, Mbeumo is still rumbling on now. Everybody, and I've said this, and I'm not going to put a percentage on it, but the Mbeumo deal, I really do think that there is a potential for this to collapse. Now, I don't think it will. I think there's definitely a high percentage now, more than ever. If another club who can actually buy and come in with a good package and sell something to him, there's every possibility, or there is a door now ajar, that I think that somebody who wants this player could come in and convince him, just go in, pay this money, and convince him to get this player done. Now, I want Mbeumo. I am of the opinion, I think his goals, I think as a player, I think he's fantastic. I really just want them to get this deal done. I wanted this deal to be done weeks and weeks ago, but the longer this plays out, the more danger that it's in. Now, I think more than ever, I do believe that there is a danger of this deal collapsing. And the reason for it collapsing will be purely because of us. I think this player it's such an open goal. The player is there. The player wants to come to us. The negotiation, I don't understand what it is they're trying to do. Now, Alanga's just gone to Newcastle for 55 million. Now we're going to get some money out of that as well. I think there's a 10 to 20% clause in that deal that gives us like some money back. So if we are arguing over 5 to 6 million, why don't we just get the money from that deal and plonk it onto that, and then just completely just pay that off? So if this is the player that we want, that Ruben is adamant and this is a transformative player, I believe he's going to be a fantastic player. Just get this deal done. So what are we, 6-7 weeks into this deal now, and I really fear for the first time that I can see glimpses and cracks in it, whereby even the player might get bored. Hopefully, I am completely wrong, and we'll get like a here we go on Mbeumo this week. But we're Tuesday, and we've been doing this for weeks and weeks and weeks upon end, and we still don't have this deal done. So in Mbeumo, I'm really hoping that this can get done, but I am of this opinion that if I can see us messing up a deal and collapsing a deal, it could be this one. But I just hope that eventually we get this deal done, pay what they want for Mbeumo, and just get this deal done, because as much as I want this player, this is drugged on so much, and they take the joy even out of the transfer. Striking position. So this is a position that we need. I think this is probably one of the most important positions in the team that we need. So Højlund, I just really wished for him it had worked out. I do think with Højlund, I think he got a rough end of the deal at 20 years old with no real education, really. Pre-season under a different coach, different way of playing. The dressing room behind him, not full of leaders. Not, he's asked at 20 years old to lead the line, and there's not many players. I could probably maybe mention one or two at 20 years old that could probably lead the line for us, and there are not that many at all. And he was asked to do that. Young kid, I just not cut out right now to be able to do that confident shot. So what we needed was I think we needed a world-class, a goal scorer, a statement to put out to the rest of the league to say, look, we might have finished 15th, but we're going to come for you. The Gyökeres saga, again, we said this 3 weeks ago that was done and dusted. I've moved on for that. What I'm going to comment on that and just say is I don't care if he was waiting for Arsenal, Gyökeres was there to be done. If we were a serious club, we could have convinced him to come to us. I believe that. Whether you think that's right or not, I'd love to know your opinions on that. This is just my opinion. I believe that if we wanted this player, we'd have really made a play and a pitch for him and done everything out there to get him. I believe that with the Amorim connection, we definitely could have got him. That's done and dusted. We move on for that. Arsenal have got an absolute amazing player. I think he's going to absolute banging goals. And how ironic would it be that he scores a hat-trick against us? So I think Arsenal I've got a really, really good signing. So that's fantastic. Osimhen. Now, reporting, and I've seen a lot of things on this now. So it becomes a little bit clear with him. So Osimhen apparently is going to go to Galatasaray. The president came out and basically said that we're going to go all in for this player. We want an answer. And what they've done, they've gone and got funding. They've gone and got sponsorship to pay basically what he wants. So they've gone above and beyond to get this player. Now, I will caveat sort of this and say that Osimhen wanted 250 mil net. So basically what that means is that's what he wants to earn after tax. So the UK is about 40% tax. I think it's about 45% for like high earners. Obviously, there are things that you can do to bring that down. So that probably puts it about £420,000 a year. So we'd have to pay him 420,000. So if Osimhen was going to bang us in 25 goals, 30 goals a season, I'm on the fence on this one because I believe that we need to stop paying silly transfers. And when I say that, I mean, north of 350. So do I think a 420,000 is a little bit over the top for him? Possibly. Would it be worth the money to sign him and the money you'd get into the Champions League? Probably yes. So you'd pay him an extra £5 to £7 million a year. Do that get you back into the Champions League? Because you have to speculate, you have to take a chance. Then it's completely worth it because the money that you'd get back and the sponsorship and whatever else, it would be worth the money. Conversely to that is that then what you then do is that you blow the structure of your wages that you're trying to put into place, and you blow those out of the window. So Osimhen, I can sort of see that, but it really indicates me now as to why we were never in for this player. We were never in for him. I think we found out early doors about the wages, and we basically just said nah. So I think it was beneficial for us to be linked to him in terms of the clicks and in terms of what the fan base would do and giving hope and whatever to the fan base. But I don't think we were ever in for this player at all. Šeško, that one's done. I never thought that we were going to be in for that. I think the total package for him would be around 100 million all in. You're talking your add-ons, you're talking whatever else. So you're talking about 80 odd million pounds, and then there's the wages on top. So Shesko, I think, was never on there. I don't believe that even if we went for him, even though we were looking at him, we've been looking at him for a long time, we could get a deal done. I just don't believe that. That's why Arsenal haven't gone for him and pivoted to a different player. Ekitike, I did a video on that as well a couple of weeks ago. I never thought that he was right for us. 100 million roughly as well. Not the right sort of player for what we want to do. Not to say that any of these players are bad. Not to say they wouldn't come in and they wouldn't improve us, but for what it is that we're trying to do, I just don't think that they're those sorts of players. I can't say that any player would be bad to come to us in terms of the player, because look, anything is going to be an improvement on what we have. So therefore, now what are we left with? So all of the decent strikers are pretty much gone or thereabouts, or we've basically priced ourselves out of the market for a decent striker. So now we're going to be looking at 6th, 7th choice. And obviously the rumblings now from some of the other channels, which I've already said that we have on here. We've spoken about this before any of those decided to talk about it, but we were brave enough on here to mention it or already. Calvert-Lewin, Jamie Vardy, those two I have mentioned from the first day. We've mentioned them from the first day because it just had Glazer written all over it. It has cheap, easy to do. No one else wants to touch these players, but it's a typical United signing. Moise Kean as well. Now, if you've ever played Pro Evo 2018 to 19, Moise Kean on that was absolutely fantastic. A really, really good young player to come through. Powerful, really looked like he had a lot of potential. But as with a lot of young players, they don't ever fulfill that potential. So Moise Kean, Juventus, he went to, I think, was it PSG? Went to was it Everton? Yes, it was. And I don't want to say fail because he was a young kid, but it didn't work out for him. I don't know whether he was too young. I don't know whether the pace of the league was too much for him. So now he's gone back with Fiorentina, and he looks like he's doing really, really well there. Now there's a release clause for him of about 55 million, about 45 million pounds ish, I think, to bring him back. And apparently we are kind of looking at him and kind of making noises around this deal with Moise Kean. For me, absolutely not. I think there are some players who just fit leagues better. I think I'm of the opinion, and you may not agree with me, I think overall, as an average league, I think the Premier League is the best league in the world. There are other leagues whereby they have better teams. I just don't think the caliber of teams overall is as good as the Premier League. Other leagues are more technical than ours. Other leagues may have, better midfield play. Other leagues do things better than us. But I think an overall average, I'm not going to. I don't like this term a farmers league, because there are some leagues whereby the caliber of the entire league is not maybe up to the same standards as I believe as Premier League, but every league definitely has its other than maybe some of the really, really small leagues, whereby now you do get a top 3 or top 4 that could come into our league and like hold its own. But Moise Kean has gone to on average, a different league, a slower league, and he obviously feels slower. He feels better in a slower, more in the Italian league. So I think maybe he's found his home there. I think he's probably better suited there. Even if maybe he went to like a Spanish league or the French league, maybe he wouldn't be as good. Maybe he's found his team in the league that suits his play style. I just don't want to go anywhere near this Moise Kean deal. I think it will be a very expensive deal, even though it's 45 million. I still think we're creeping. We're touching 60 million after agent fees and whatever other fees. I just think this is a really expensive and a mistake deal to do. Højlund, I'd rather keep him. As crazy as that sounds, I think we're coming to a point now where the strikers that we are looking at will divide the fan base. Are they really better than what we've got? Maybe they're better by 5 to 10%, but is that worth spending 60 million maybe on an extra 2 or 3 goals? I don't think that it is. And then we're then coming to a point now where we're looking at free signings such as a Jamie Vardy. The fact that the Athletic are mentioning Jamie Vardy's Calvert-Lewin, and I'm convinced Calvert-Lewin is going to end up at this club. I am convinced. I've said this for weeks. The moment that there was a possibility that we were in talks with him to potentially sign him, I think in the last window or maybe last summer, I just think there's something about this player that's an English player that Sir Jim or whoever else likes him in the club. And I'm convinced that it may not happen, but I do believe he's going to come out that we were close to signing this player. Whether or not he's the main striker, whether or not we keep Højlund. So this is what I think, and I don't know what your opinions are on it as well. I mean, this is my kind of mad opinion on it and my sort of mad thoughts on it. And this is why I welcome opinions. As long as we are respectful, chuck your opinions in and we can talk about them. My concern is that somebody will go, I've got a really, really great idea. Let's get an experienced striker for Højlund. And we have Højlund and Lewin up front next season. And maybe a Vardy on top of that as well. So my fear next year is that Amorim is going to be asked to try to do something in the league with Calvert-Lewin and Højlund. We have a young kid who has been asked to lead a line, which he's too young to do, and then one of the most injury-prone players. He had 5 hamstring injuries in the last 2 years and basically hasn't played. And my fear is right there, is that Højlund's going to stay and Calvert-Lewin or Vardy are going to be the ones to come in and do a job, and they're going to be asked to do a job. And there you have it. I think that this is what you have, and I think this is the realization as a fan base. And I don't believe we can have our opinions. I believe this. There's a lot of toxic positivity out there. There's a lot of toxicity out there. And I think at a time like that, I just think we need to keep our heads, because this is not my fault. This is not your fault. This is not other people's fault. The only blame that needs to be aligned here is with the Glazers and Ineos. Hey, it's Danny B. Hope you are well, my friend. I am doing very well. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. Hope you've let me know what you've seen about the transfer window. What pie in the sky. I don't know how far you're up on today's show. Basically, as the thumbnail says, what I'm trying to get across is basically that the Glazers lie and the Ineos lie, and for PSR we could spend 200 million. This has been reported a couple of times. So for PSR wise, there are 2 ways to look at PSR. So if you look at the stock exchange on our books, we've made £105 million loss over the last 2 years, which obviously PSR, correctly so, it could be wrong and we could look really, really bad. But we have another company we use for PSR, which we've spoken about because us guys on here, or and girls. We're an aware lot, and they have another company called, was it Red Football, and this is what they use for PSR. So for PSR, we're absolutely covered. We're absolutely fine. We could spend this money. So when you hear other channels talk about it, or supporting the Glazers, saying that we've got to sell to buy, and we've got no money, well, that technically is true. But if they bother to put in the cash, we could spend 200 million, and not 200 million over the next 4 years. We could spend it in this window if they bothered to put in the money. Whether we have cash is obviously important, because we need cash to buy players. But in terms of PSR, this PSR excuse floated around is an absolute myth, and we're absolutely fine for PSR. So what this comes down to is the appetite of this club, the appetite of the of Ineos and the Glazers to do something in this window. So Danny B says 100%. Not surprised with these bluffers. I'd sack. Yeah, Wilcox. 7 out of 10 window. I would love to know from this position, what would you class as a 7 out of 10 window? Okay, I'll give you mine if you give me yours, right? So 7 out of 10 for me would be a Garnacho gone for profit, Rashford gone for profit or loan or obligation to buy, Anthony gone, we break even or we collect a little bit of money from that. Sancho gone, he can just go completely. Onana, if not gone, a replacement or a number 2 in. And Burmo finally done. Cunha, striker wise, and a striker that's not Calvert-Lewin or Vardy would be nice, and somebody maybe of a left field. Maybe a left or right back, and maybe another midfielder. And then if all that gets done, then maybe for me that's pushing a 7, but that might be a 6. Danny says 3 more players within Burmo, Garnacho, Rashford. I think I said him gone, Sancho gone. I think you are. I think you are letting them off there. I think that's a. I think that. I don't think you're wrong, and I think you're 100% right there. But I think potentially you are. They hit this fan base so badly that our expectations are low. So Bobby's in the house. Hello, Bobby. You're not late, my friend. I just try to do these shows as I would love to do a everyday single show. Maybe in the future, obviously, if the channel grows more and more and more, I'll be able to put an official slot in. Maybe 1 or 2 shows a day. I'd love to get to that point. But I promise you, you're not late. It's all on me. Then it'd be 7 years average for me. Maybe that's a 6. I think, to go back to your point, I don't think you're wrong. I think you're spot on with what you said. And I'd be happy. Well, I say happy, but isn't it sad that the Glazers and the Ineos have got us to this point where we would? So after the season where we finished 15th, the final was atrocious. And for example, you'd be happy with 3 more players in and a couple of players gone, right? And that is absolutely fine. I think we need more than that. I think that we should be holding them accountable for more than that. I think that is the very least that they can do. So if we're looking at players and, we give them a score and you say like an average out of 10, right? Let me go say 6 is a standard. 6 is the standard that they need to achieve every single game. Have you heard about in Burma? Well, the last thing that I heard is that there is starting to get a little bit of frustration from his side. So we've got a player who wants to join our club, irrespective of whether we finished 15th or not. We've got this open goal of a player that wants to join us, that wants to come, but yet what we are doing is we're arguing over a couple of £1 million. Now, this Alanga deal might actually push this through on the basis that, number one, we've got a sell-on clause of 10 to 20%. I think it's around 15%, and this will give us between 5 to 8 million back. Now, with that price given in Burma, I think is a different player. I think we need goals, and you pay more for goals. So I think 62, 65 is about right. Now, this Alanga move may push the Burma deal through. If not, I'd be wondering why not. But I want this deal done by the end of this week. I think if this deal isn't done, and what I fear is that we drop the ball on this deal and somebody comes in for this player and just pays the money, convinces him to go because they've come in and they've put everything in there. I do think we'll get this deal done because we need to. But all I'm going to say is nothing surprises me. Danny B says, a rat cannot be happy, and I'm disappointed that Favel 2 is not targeting the unknown prospects like I would. I agree with you. I don't know what the plan is. There you go. Thank you. Car key. That was Mrs. JB there. Looking to get the old car key off me. Honestly, she should know that this is my time. I'm kidding. Yes, I would have liked to have thought, given because he's been here. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Favel was been here for a year, and I would have liked to have thought he would have, as you said there, gone on and got some targets and brought these players into the club, more than one or two. Now, my question there would be, what is his role and what is happening there? You know, is it because he doesn't have the scouts? Is it because he's not actually him? What is his actual role at the club? And I think you made a good point that this is what I don't get. Right. And this is what, and you've made a really good point there, right? And actually I want to talk about this as well. So we're talking about the positions behind the scenes, right? So we're talking about the negotiators, we're talking about people that identify players, we're talking about, you know, the medical staff, we're talking about trainers, coaches, right? So we were supposed to hire these best in class, and we were supposed to, you know, get these people in to help underpin this club and these players and to push us forward. So even if the players are not quite right, we honestly disturbing me again. Honestly. Yeah. Anyway, so all these players and supposed to underpin this club and support this club and you know, improve us from that side. Even if the players weren't great, we'd be able to lift and shift these players out. Know we've got the next round of players to come through, bringing in these really cheap players, and that even fits into the model of what Sir Jim wants to do. We buy these players for cheap and then we sell them. We can't even do that. So the people that we bring into this club are supposedly best in class, who had contracts at other clubs, who were supposed to be these next big things, like an Ashworth and like whoever else. And I don't see a change. I don't see a change of philosophy at this club. I don't see a change of personnel at this club. When we do see a change of the personnel, nothing will change. Amarin still does all the interviews. I mean, whatever and Bobby's right there. I do think we just need to literally just pay 65 million. I think that is what we need to do. Stanley B says we have a list of players I have watched join other clubs. I know. You can. I think it's such a sad state of affairs where you have these players, and we all know how good these players are, and we're screaming at the club, and these players that we would sign because we're fans, because we know what we're doing, we know what the clubs want, and they go to other clubs. I feel that pain. I really do. I feel that so many players, even over the years, but I think it's getting worse and worse and worse. There might have been the odd player like Ronaldinho. I was convinced that he was going to come to us from PSG. I think it was, and he buggered off to Barcelona. And then when you go forward on that, these players that we need, that we can know that is going to be a good deal, and we just don't do it, and then we end up panic buying at the end of the window, and we end up paying Anthony cash, and what do we get for that? So these deals over the years, Nipan, I know, and someone is chopping a tree outside, so I apologize if you can hear chopping of the tree, because no one asks me about anything. Anyway, I'll try to persevere on through the chopping of the tree down. Anyway, Nipan. Yeah, Nipan. I saw this player, and I think he went for 12, 13 million. Again, I think, others at the time, credit to them, credit to other people, and they were talking about this player, and kind of like, well, I was thinking about this channel, and I was thinking about those sorts of players. And you're right, watching players like that who could be good, but you spend 15 million on him, and oh, Bobby, I agree with you, Matt. And we've been saying that on here, and you're right. And I'm glad that you've said that already, because all the others now, all the other bigger channels are starting to jump on to this point now of that Jamie Vardy and Calvert-Lewin, which we've been saying on here now for quite some time. We've been saying this for 3 weeks. We've been saying this now for quite some time, that my biggest fear is that we're going to end up with the likes of Vardy on 200 grand. Oh, and I know you joke, and I joke, but if we get to the end of a window and we don't have a striker, and we need a striker, this is what we'll go and do. We will go and give him 150k for 2 years. That is the sort of thing that we do, because Sir Jim, I'm sure he thinks it's 2005 or something like that, and I worry. I really, really do. So, yeah. So I don't know where we are. I worry about this club. But I do want to emphasise. I said it in May. We'll end up with Dominic Calvert, and you know what? Spot on as well. Then, and this is what we've been saying on here as well. I agree with you completely. I've always thought that Calvert-Lewin was a shoe-in to come here. Whenever the name was mentioned, I always thought that he was a shoe-in to come here, just maybe for the English quota. I never understood the fascination with this player, and I think you're right. I think you're right, Danny B. I share the same thing as well. I share the same fear as well. I share the same fear that our strike force next season will be a Xerxes backup, because where's Xerxes going to play? Because the two number 10s, Højlund and Calvert-Lewin. Just let that sink in for a second. That Xerxes, who actually I think is a good player, but he's not a number 9. He's not a striker. Højlund, who couldn't hit an open door with a banjo, if that's a phrase, I think it is. And Calvert-Lewin, or Cruciate Lewin, I like that one, who basically stands up on his feet and gets injured. So I don't know what's more annoying, listening to that outside, or the thought of Jamie Vardy. Check out Noah Stenberg and okay, I will have to check them out. Top goal scorer in the Belgian league. Let me give that a little look. I love this when you give suggestions on the fly. I like that. I like it. Oh, I like that. On the fly. Arrow Cadet, if that's how he says his name. 40 matches and 21 goals. Tell you what, that is was he 26 as well? 26 years old, 40 matches, 21 goals, 5 assists. 197 was that 6'5"? Is that about 6'5"? I mean, that is those are some good numbers. I mean, I don't know how much you'd end up paying for him, but again, this is what I'm saying, right? You guys out there are so intelligent, like so up on. I mean, I know about football, but again, stuff filters through the cracks, and you guys out there, you really got your fingers on the pulse, and you guys really know your stuff. You guys know your stuff, but yet, as you said there, right, a person who's, and again, 20 to 30 million. I mean, that's a bargain. That would be an absolute steal. And you guys out there, you're so smart. You know your football, but yet the people who are best in class, the best in class people are on here. The best in class people are fans. They are the Brighton signings. They are the Brentford signings. These are signings that we just don't do, because for whatever reason we've got, why don't we have these scouts who go to the Belgium league? Like if we had a scout, if one of us, for example, went to the Belgium league and saw this guy, 26 years old, coming into his prime, 6'4", 6'5", right, playing 40 games, which means he's not injured, right, scoring 20 odd goals for 25 to 30 million, you'd go, this guy looks all right here. And you could take a punt at him for 25 million. It's like when, I forget his name now, for Dortmund. He went to Dortmund. What was his name? It began with a G. And he went to Dortmund, and he went on like really, really cheap from, was it Stuttgart or somewhere? His name will come to me. And we could have got him for like literally 15 million, and he ended up banging in a ton of goals for Dortmund. These are, and again, I've not even mentioned Obi either. Imagine a scenario, right? These suggestions on here, by the way, are fantastic. Imagine this, right? And I think this is the high possibility that this could happen. We have an OB who is a young kid who potentially looks fantastic, 17 years old. Højlund, Calvert-Lewin, or Vardy up front. Those would be the three options for next season. And I kind of just want to leave it on this, because I basically have to go and pick up the kids in a minute. I'll look him up as well. Noah Stenberg. Look at him as well. Tells you what, you are coming up with them today, Danny B. You are coming up with these names today. Stenberg, 33 goals. Tell you what, you are coming up with 20 as well. Jesus. Sternberg, 20. Tell you what, I'm gonna look at that for the next show. You are coming out with some bangers today, young man. So I'm going to leave it shortly, and what I'm going to say is leave it on 2 points. Number one, PSR. So let's not be confused. Let's not be caught out by PSR and this whole we can't spend money because of PSR. We need to get that out of our heads. So for PSR, we can spend. We're absolutely fine on PSR. Even though we make a loss on the stock exchange account, when it comes to PSR on the other account that we use for PSR, we're absolutely fine. We can spend as much money as we like. We can't because of how we've spent our money and the debt repayments and the repayments of players are no longer here and these repayments of stupid deals that we've done. So just don't be fooled by that whole we've got no money, please feel bad for us. That isn't the issue. The issue is that they've spent their money badly and we've got no money and the owners don't want to put cash in. Second of all is how is Amorim, whether you're Amorim in or Amorim out? At this point, I'm on the fence, only on the basis that I've seen some red flags for him. And I don't think he helps himself. Okay. But I don't want to sack another manager. If this is the window that we're about to have, how can we sack a manager? Because when I call for a manager to go, I don't want him to have an excuse. I mean, to have his players. I want him to get his players in, right? I want him to get his players in, play his style. There is no ambiguity. There is no excuse. Okay, so then he can't say, I didn't have a transfer window. I didn't have my own players in. They didn't back me. They didn't did this. They didn't agree with that as well, right? That I didn't have my players. I don't have this. I don't have that. So then if Amorim then is sacked, I can then go with a heavy heart to say, I know it was your time to go because you failed. Okay. But yet what's going to happen again is it's going to be toxic. It's going to be his fault that we signed Vardy. It's going to be his fault that we didn't sign play. It's going to be his fault that the keeper's here. It's going to be his fault. And all the club are going to do is going to lumber it on another manager, get him sacked. And as you said there, Halloween time, he'll be gone. He'll be absolutely gone. And you know what? If I was him, if it gets to that point, I wouldn't blame him if he walked away. And I almost want, and I don't blame him for it either, is I want a manager to not sign any sort of agreement, any sort of paper to say that he can't talk. And he walks away and he goes, I'm not signing any of your papers. I'm gonna show this fan base and I'm gonna literally show the world what this club is like. So I'm not gonna sign a waiver. You can basically stick your money. I'm gonna tell the truth and I'm going to come out and show the world what this club is like. That's not going to happen, and I'm not blaming him for that. And I think he needs to do what he needs to do for himself, for his family. But I don't want to burn another manager when it's not necessarily his fault. So if we get a window and he then gets his players, or he says he's happy and he goes through the window, well then he's only got himself to blame. But if he comes out and says, "Look, I've not got the window that I wanted. I asked for X, Y, and Z, and I got Z," then what do we do? So again, I'm really sorry. I tried to be as pragmatic and as honest as I can. But I think this week, we need to take stock and actually put blame where blame is due on these owners who hide behind this PSR and that we can't spend money when we can. And the knock-on impact of that is what it does to the fan base, and it spins it around. So, guys, I'm going to have to go. Honestly, you guys in the chat, you girls in the chat are phenomenal. I think some of the chat that you put in there, I just blows me away. I think you're all super clever. I'm going to look at some of these players' name. I could talk about this all day long. I'm hoping that something happens so I can jump back on again and we can talk about this again. So if something positive happens, I want to do a positive show about a player and come back and say, look, guys, this is the player, blah, 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 blah. When that happens, I obviously will come back on. And again, let's keep it up. Let's keep talking. Bring them. So next time, bring these players in. stick them in chat, stick them in the comments, stick them in the comments, and then I will look up these players and we can have a chat about them, because I really want to know some more of your suggestions. So guys, amazing show. You lot are amazing. Thank you so much for liking the videos, for commenting. Obviously, comment as much as you like, guys. You're fantastic. And have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys shortly. So take care, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.